The film industry has done a couple of things to make things seem and appear more cinematic and more dramatic, with the use of lighting, sound effects, special effects, and even, these camera techniques and styles, doing special angles and all of this. But the thing is, they have actually gone at to some extent a little bit too far, because they have actually, broken this thin line between what is fake and what is reality. Sometimes you've seen these, things in movies where they're able to curve bullets, or when a car jumps off a broken bridge. It never really goes this way unless there's a freaking ramp. But yeah, they make us believe that the car could actually do that if you just go really fast. But the thing is, there are some things that, the film industry doesn't necessarily have to change, because in some way they already are quite dramatic. So for today's video, we're gonna talk about the biggest lie that the film industry has actually got us all fooled. Coming right up. So hey y'all, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits, channel that talks about everything heart related. Now, given that I'm emphasizing that this channel is about heart health, so obviously the topic has something to do with the heart. So we all know this particular scene, when you watch a movie or a TV series, usually something that's inclined towards something that's medical, or a point where some person is about to die. We all know this scene where a patient is lying down in this, on the deathbed, or it could be a victim technically. And what happens is you see this heart rate monitor in the back where it goes tit, tit, and then eventually it goes into a flat line, tit. And when that happens, usually in that instance, you see, doctors rushing in with nurses. It's like, oh my God, we have to get a defibrillator. They start to get this defibrillator, okay, I want you to charge it up. They start opening the chest. And then patient does this. You see a little tit, but it's still on the flat line. Then again, they try again. And eventually it comes to a point where the patient finally comes back to life. Now, of course, you might be asking, what is wrong with this scenario? What part of it has got us all fooled? Well, you'd be surprised how unrealistic this whole scenario is when I start explaining it more into detail what a defibrillator actually does. Now, defibrillators are actually not designed to jumpstart the heart. Most of the time, you feel like you can do it like in a car, or, a Frankenstein kind of scenario, where if there is a certain amount of electricity, you can bring a certain thing or human being, so to say, back to life. But with defibrillators, what it actually does is it disrupts certain chaotic and disorganized arrhythmias of the heart. And usually these are things which are called as, those shockable, shockable rhythms, right? Now, since I said it's a shockable rhythm, already that implies that it's not actually a flat line. That means there's actually something happening. So everything that you see in the movies when there's a flat line is actually really, really fake. Because realistically, you cannot shock the person back to life, and just by doing so, you actually just hurt the body and you don't get anything out of it. So let's get into what are the two shockable rhythms. So simply put, I actually wrote it down just so you can, imagine it and see it more clearly. So hopefully not too much reflection, and there. All right. So the first one is called ventricular fibrillation, or otherwise known as VF or v-fib. The second one is known as pulseless ventricular tachycardia, or otherwise known as v-tach or v-t, right? Now, as you can see in the first one, there is a diagram. I guess you could say it's a diagram, or rather just my drawing, which is not extraordinary. So as you can see, the action is actually not that big. They're actually small gestures, small movements, whatever, small actions. So what it actually implies is that the heart is actually quivering. So when a heart quivers, basically when you're feeling cold or something, you have this, something like that, right? So if you were to imagine, so the thing is with shockable rhythms, they're usually disorganized and usually they're quite fast. So what happens is, normally, if you quiver, it would be something like... My face is weird just doing that. Anyway, since it's abnormal quiver, so it would be... Yeah, but whatever, just make it abnormal kind of thing. Not necessarily my face, but the timing of how it quivers. Anyway, whatever. So what happens is, because when a heart quivers, the body actually doesn't receive as much blood as it's required to. And as you know, if certain parts of the body doesn't receive enough blood, that part of that body could actually die, you know, the cells in itself. So that's the first. And the second is the, as I mentioned, the pulseless ventricular tachycardia, or known as VT. As you can see in the diagram, it's more bigger, or rather longer appearing, right? So what this actually implies is that the heart is beating so fast and in some way uncontrollably. So it's doing something like... This is too tiring to do. Anyway, whatever. So what that also implies is the same thing, because it's not given enough time to really get more, push more, get more, push more. It's not actually delivering enough blood to the body as well. And in those instances, it's required to technically, you know, kind of, you know, this thing in the computer where you control alt delete, where basically, all right, we go back to the start, or you refresh a page. Shocking the heart is actually like refreshing your heart. You know, letting it go back to its original state, right? So realistically, that is only when you should use a defibrillator, just so that the heart goes back in the appropriate rhythm, alright? So if we go into realistically, what is supposed to be shown, you know, if we watch movies and all of this when a person is on a flat line? Well, supposedly what is supposed to be done, I'm saying too much word supposed right now, is you're supposed to give CPR. So let's use Pikachu just so that, you know, it's more interesting. So if it goes beep, 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 oh my god, first thing, you give your CPR. And once you do that, what's important is that you actually administer some form of drugs to stimulate electrical activity in the heart. And you know, hopefully in that little brief period of time, you find some solutions to what is actually causing the heart to stop, right? So, once again, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits. Now keep in mind, not everything that you see in TV is actually reality. So, once again, see ya.